Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're going to be exploring a story that honestly feels both ancient and surprisingly relevant.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Yeah. So we're going to be digging into some excerpts from a text simply called 47.
Okay, 47.
Now, I'm not going to spoil the surprise just yet, but let's just say it involves, well, themes of famine,
Famine. Okay.
leadership,
Got it.
and the kind of social shifts that, well, they've shaped civilizations.
Oh, this is going to be good.
So buckle up, because we're about to journey back in time to uncover a story that's both captivating and thought-provoking, I think. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. What's so interesting about this narrative is how it just throws us right into like the heart of a really universal dilemma.
Okay.
You've got a group of people desperately seeking refuge from hardship.
Right.
And a powerful leader facing a choice that could, well, determine the fate of his entire nation. It's a scenario that's echoed throughout history, even to this day.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so let's set the stage. Imagine a devastating famine sweeping across both Egypt and Canaan.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Now, picture Jacob and his family. They're shepherds.
Shepherds, right.
Their livelihood is threatened, obviously.
Yeah,
They're searching for a safe haven.
makes sense.
But here's where it gets interesting. One of their own, Joseph, is already in Egypt.
Oh, okay. So he's already there.
He's already there. And he's not just blending in with the crowd. He's holding a position of authority.
That's a crucial detail, because when Joseph presents his family to Pharaoh, he doesn't frame them as like desperate refugees begging for handouts. He strategically positions them as skilled workers. He essentially says, look, my family, they bring valuable expertise.
Yeah.
They're livestock managers, they understand land and resources, they can contribute to Egypt's well-being, even in the midst of this famine.
It's a brilliant play,
Yeah.
appealing directly to Pharaoh's self-interest.
It really is.
So instead of just offering like temporary relief, Joseph's proposing a long-term solution that benefits everyone. It's like that age-old wisdom of teaching someone to fish rather than just giving them a fish.
Right.
Except here, it's more like give Pharaoh skilled shepherds, and you might just ensure the survival of your entire nation.
Exactly. And Pharaoh, being the pragmatic leader that he is, he recognizes the opportunity. He grants them Goshen, a region known for its fertile land. He acknowledges their potential to not only survive, but to actually contribute to Egypt's prosperity. Now, I want to point out that when Jacob meets Pharaoh, the text specifically mentions that Jacob is 130 years old.
Wow, okay.
That detail adds a fascinating layer to this encounter, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, 130 years old. Imagine the wisdom and life experience he carried with him. I mean, it makes you wonder what that meeting must have been like. So Pharaoh seems to be a pretty savvy ruler. But let's talk more about Joseph. This is where things take a really intriguing turn because he essentially uses this famine, this time of crisis, to reshape Egyptian society in a pretty profound way.
Yeah, that's where we start to see the ethical complexities of leadership, especially in a crisis.
Right.
The text describes how, as the famine tightens its grip, Joseph, he orchestrates a system where he gathers all the money in exchange for grain.
Okay, so at first it's money.
Right.
Yeah.
Then he accepts livestock.
So then livestock.
And finally, as people face starvation, they offer themselves and their land to Pharaoh in exchange for survival. And this raises some interesting questions, about the choices leaders make during times of desperation.
So essentially, Joseph engineers a system where Pharaoh ends up owning all the land,
Right.
except for the priest land, which was supported by Pharaoh.
Right.
And then he relocates the people to cities and sets up this system where they work the land, giving a fifth of their harvest to Pharaoh as a sort of, rent. It sounds pretty drastic, doesn't it?
On the surface, yes, it does. But it's crucial to consider the context here. This system, while appearing authoritarian, it served a critical purpose. It ensured the survival of the Egyptian people during a catastrophic famine.
Right. Okay.
And interestingly, the text tells us this system remained in place long after the famine ended.
Oh, really?
Suggesting that it wasn't perceived as entirely oppressive by the Egyptians themselves. It may have even brought a sense of stability and order in a time of, chaos.
That's an interesting point, yeah. It almost makes you think about those historical moments where societies have had to make, difficult choices, perhaps sacrificing some freedoms for the sake of collective survival. It's a complicated issue with no easy answers. So while all of this is happening, what becomes of Jacob?
Well, Jacob lives in Goshen for 17 years
Okay.
and eventually passes away at the impressive age of 147. But before he dies, he makes a rather significant request to Joseph.
Okay.
He asks to be buried back in Canaan with his ancestors.
So even though they found refuge and prosperity in Egypt, their hearts remained tied to their homeland. It's a powerful testament to the enduring pull of one's roots.
Exactly. And that request, that yearning for a return to their ancestral land, it sets the stage for future events in this narrative. It hints at a tension between their present reality in Egypt and a deep-seated longing for, well, something more.
Oh, wow. This is already so fascinating. We barely scratched the surface. I can't wait to delve deeper into the implications of all of this. It's amazing how these ancient stories can still resonate so strongly with us today.
I agree, and I think that's what makes this deep dive so compelling. We're not just uncovering historical events. We're exploring timeless themes of leadership, power, survival, and the choices societies make in the face of extraordinary challenges.
Yeah.
It's a story that invites us to reflect on our own values and the dilemmas we face in the modern world. What strikes me, is how this story brings up all these age-old questions about power, control, and the balance between what individuals need and what's good for society, like, as a whole.
Right, like how far is too far when it comes to, ensuring the survival of a whole population? Is it ever okay to sacrifice some individual freedoms for the sake of stability? I mean, those are tough questions.
They are.
And I think the story from 47 presents them in a way that really gets you thinking without, necessarily giving you easy answers.
Exactly. It prompts us to consider, all the complexities of leadership. Think about the ethical dilemmas that, inevitably arise when you're managing resources, especially when those resources are scarce.
Right.
And then there's a whole impact that crises like this famine, can have on social structures, on the very fabric of society. I mean, these aren't just ancient history problems,
Yeah.
They're issues we're still grappling with today.
That's what I find so fascinating about exploring historical narratives like this. They shed light on the human experience in a way that feels timeless and universal.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring it back to this particular story, what would you say are the biggest takeaways from this account in 47?
Well, one of the most striking takeaways is how a leader, in this case Joseph, can leverage a crisis to reshape society. He manages to centralize power, implement sweeping changes, and create a system that lasts long after the initial crisis has passed. It makes you think about the ripple effects of leadership decisions, especially during times of upheaval.
And it also raises questions about, the trade-offs between security and freedom. In this story, the Egyptians seem to have gained a sense of security and stability through Joseph's system, but it came at the cost of relinquishing control over their land and resources. It's a reminder that even in times of crisis, it's crucial to consider the potential long-term consequences of the solutions we embrace.
Absolutely, and let's not forget Jacob's request to be buried in Canaan. Even after years of relative prosperity in Egypt, his heart remained connected to his ancestral homeland. It speaks volumes about the enduring power of heritage, the pull of one's roots, even in the face of displacement and change.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how many people throughout history have found themselves caught between two worlds, longing for a sense of belonging in a place that may no longer feel like home. So, stepping back for a moment, what does all of this mean for us today? I mean, we're listening to this story thousands of years after these events unfolded. Why should it matter to us now?
That's where the real aha moment comes in, I think. If
Okay.
we connect this narrative to the bigger picture, it becomes a sort of cautionary tale.
Okay.
It reminds us to be mindful of the choices that are made during times of crisis. It encourages us to question how power is used, how resources are allocated, how entire societies adapt and evolve in response to changing circumstances. These are all questions that are still relevant today, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that history often repeats itself. And by understanding the patterns of the past, we can be more informed and make more thoughtful decisions in the present.
Precisely. Think about the challenges we face today, from economic inequality to climate change. These are complex issues with no easy solutions. But by examining how ancient civilizations responded to challenges like famine and resource scarcity, we can gain valuable insights into our own vulnerabilities and potential solutions. It's all about connecting those dots between the past and the present.
I think what makes this deep dive so thought-provoking is that it's not just about understanding what happened back then, it's about recognizing how these same themes are still playing out in our world today.
It's like this story is holding up a mirror reflecting those timeless human struggles. We see the same patterns emerging: the concentration of power, the competition for resources, the constant search for solutions that will benefit both individuals and the community as a whole. It's a never-ending cycle.
And that's what makes studying history so crucial, isn't it? It helps us see those patterns, understand the complexities, and hopefully make more informed choices as we navigate the challenges of our own time.
Exactly. We're not just passive observers of history, we're active participants in shaping its course. And the more we learn from the past, the better equipped we are to create a more just and sustainable future. Wouldn't you agree?
You know, it's almost like this whole story from 47 is like a blueprint for understanding how societies respond to crises. We see these same dynamics at play even thousands of years later.
And here's where the real challenge lies: applying these ancient lessons to our own modern world. After all, we face our own set of pressing crises today.
Yeah, we do. From economic disparities to climate change, the choices we make now will have ripple effects for generations to come. It's like this story is holding up a mirror,
Right.
reflecting back at us these enduring human struggles.
Yeah.
We see those familiar patterns repeating themselves: the consolidation of power, the fight for resources, the ongoing quest for solutions that benefit both individuals and society as a whole.
And that's what makes this deep dive so thought-provoking. It's not just about deciphering what happened in ancient Egypt. It's about recognizing how these same themes continue to shape our world today. We're all part of this ongoing narrative.
So as we wrap up our exploration of 47, what's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will ponder? What's that one big idea that you think will really stick with them?
I think the most important takeaway is the vital importance of critical thinking, especially when we're confronted with narratives about power and control. This story encourages us to ask those tough questions. Who benefits from this system? What are the potential long-term consequences? Are there alternative solutions that might lead to a more equitable outcome?
It's like a call to action,
Yeah.
urging us to engage with history not as passive bystanders, but as active participants in shaping a better future. To learn from the past and apply those lessons to the challenges we face in the present.
Exactly. By understanding the patterns of the past, we can become more informed and discerning citizens capable of making wise choices that benefit not just ourselves, but generations to come.
Well said. I think it's time for us to surface from this deep dive. A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this fascinating and thought-provoking story. And to all of you listening, keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. Until next time, pull